Hello everybody, welcome to the third episode of the NextGen Web Podcast, brought to you by Blazity, the Next.js development experts. My name is Michał, I'm a software engineer at Blazity, and I'm here with Filip.
Hello, my name is Filip, I am also software engineer at Blazity.
So, let's get started with the third podcast. For today's agenda, we are going to talk about the React 19 version, which has some pretty interesting changes, and also we're gonna talk about the Vercel AI SDK. But today we have some kind of bonus. We are not going only to talk about these features. We also have a quick demo. We're gonna jump into the code and just see how it's done straight in the code editor. So let's start. Maybe first topic, the React 19. What's your thoughts about the new version of the React?
The big new version of React, so a lot of, I would say, maybe not controversy, but we have a lot of changes and a big debate about the path of React, path of front-end development related to React ecosystem. So currently, for my information, React 19 is in release candidate version. This release candidate version is like almost ready, which means if we won't have any breaking bugs, this will be the final code for this version. And related to that, we also have the Next 15. But what React 19 brings to the table? So first of all, we have stable support for React server components. The funny thing is that the React server components feature is stable in React 19, but API methods that React server components relies on aren't stable yet. So this is like a funny paradox.
Yeah.
But we also have stable support for actions, and we have to distinguish between actions and server actions, of course, because with actions we only have the handling for asynchronous functions. For example, with state changes during some pending actions, and with server actions we of course can handle server-side code in our client components. So this is the first thing. Of course, React 19 doesn't introduce that, but gives us the stable support. The second thing we have is the use API. So this is like a new API that lets us read resources from in render. So for example, we can use this to read some promise, and while this promise is being handled, we have it wrapped in React suspense. So
yeah, I would say some of these changes in React 19, I would say they try to kind of incorporate the good practices from the most popular frameworks for React. I would say the use API, for example, just the way of handling the promises and just overall the form state kind of reminds me of the React query. I'm pretty sure I've also used the React query library, which is, to be honest, one of the best libraries for React, and that's good to see that the new version of the React is trying to get some of the good practices and just make our life easier, and not you don't have to be heavily dependent on all of the packages, on all of the libraries. You just get those features like out of the box in the new React 19. But yeah, we were talking about the use API. That's a great use case for just handling the asynchronous stuff in React. And the next thing we have, which I hated before React 19, is the ref, passing the refs. I mean, that just the way how complicated that was, the syntax just to get a pretty simple feature, to be honest, was a big pain for me. I tried to avoid passing the refs as much as possible because I just hated the syntax for it. So that's nice that it's finally treated as a prop in the new React version.
It forwarding refs was making my code at least very messy, and I didn't like it. I hated it.
Yeah, the null initial state always, just, and all the hustle with TypeScript just to, handle it. That was so bad.
When I was first learning React, before learning Next.js and the other stuff, when I was working with refs, it was so like counterintuitive for me. I didn't know how to wrap my head around this. So now we can access refs just by using them as props. So this is very welcomed change. And the other big thing I would say is improvements for context. So right now we don't have to, right now with React 19, we won't have to pass things like context provider. We just use context. So
yeah, that's a good thing here to mention also that the main kind of argument against the context, at least in my cases, was that you just have to bring so much boilerplate to the code just to get the context going. And for example, Zustand, which gives you kind of less boilerplate to manage the global state, was a great choice for me. And I was trying to kind of avoid the context just because the amount of boilerplate you had to introduce to the code base was pretty overwhelming. So the fact that this is the next thing that is just simplified and you don't have to introduce so much boilerplate to the code is great.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we can avoid some of this boilerplate. Of course, all of this is like case specific, because sometimes using context is okay for some small stuff, but of course we don't want probably to use it in some complex application. We have better libraries for that. The one of the, I think, biggest improvements in React 19 are hydration error messages and overall error logging in the browser.
That's true, especially in the era when you have a lot of logic moved to the server components, and you can see like the heavy trend both in React, the Next.js ecosystem. They try to kind of move the heavy lifting from the client side to the server side. And the big pain here was also the hydration error and just trying to find where the actual bug is.
Creating dates,
yeah,
for example.
I mean, just, finding the issue sometimes just took so much time, and just being able to see where the issue is exactly in the code is the next big improvement. So overall, I would say that devs from React just seem to listen us, the React devs, and just try to make our life easier, especially with the kind of leaning towards the server-side rendering. So I would say these are good changes. Hopefully they are going to be as good in practice as they're in the docs, hopefully. But yeah, I would say that's a big update for the React 19, and just like showing where the web development is leaning towards. So we are moving away from the client side, leaning more to the server side, and giving the developers just like kind of the granular control over the app where you want to render what. So that would be it for the React 19. We won't cover everything that it's mentioned in the React 19 docs. We encourage you guys to check out the official React 19 docs. From my experience, they are pretty clear to understand, and I like overall React does a good job in providing the docs, especially with the new features. I don't know, what are your thoughts about the docs for the new React 19?
Yeah, it's very readable, so it's eye appealing, it's good looking, and it's easy to read. So I think React documentation and React blog is a great place to get to know React 19 better. The one thing I think could be interesting is that React 19 was my topic of interest in recent days, as I was having some conversations with our colleagues about this, and overall the state of React and how the ecosystem is changing. And some of the things that were raised is that there are people that don't like this approach React is taking because they prefer the diversity between libraries and frameworks. And right now, React and Next is going into the direction of all-in-one tool, and some of the people don't like this course. I think it doesn't bother me, to be honest. But yeah, I was studying these changes, and overall, from my perspective, the developer perspective, it's going into the right place.
Yeah, that's true. The leaning towards kind of one code base just to manage the server side and the client side logic, that's true that React and Next is leaning towards. But also, if you try to develop the apps in a more traditional way, also React doesn't really force you to do so. I mean, maybe just the fact that the Create React app was officially deprecated, and they actually encourage you to use Next.js as a default production solution for the React, kind of forces you to go this way. But also the changes, to be honest, in my opinion, rather lean towards just making our life easier as developers. And you can see also here in the new version that a lot of improvements kind of circle around just reducing the boilerplate code. So that's a good path to just go further with the React. And yeah, we're gonna see how the changes are going to work in the future.
Yeah, I think that's also interesting topic for you guys to let us know in the comments. What are your thoughts about React and its future?
Yeah, I was also watching the Theo GG video about the React 19, and I've seen in the comments, man, the opinions were like so divergent. Like some of the people just straight up hated the new like kind of React way, and some people loved it. So we are very curious, what are your thoughts about the new React version? Moving further with our discussion, the hot topic, which we also discussed in the first episode pretty heavily, which is the Vercel AI SDK. Kind of in the refreshed version, so we currently have the 3.1. So any interesting changes in the new Vercel AI SDK?
Yeah, so as we mentioned about AI SDK the first episode, and we had the Vercel ShipConf in the second episode, we are returning back to this topic. We have AI SDK 3.1, and we have a bold statement from Vercel that they want AI SDK to be somehow inspired into like ORM style abstraction. So we are inspired by the technologies like Drizzle or Prisma, and our AI SDK core will be such abstraction. So it will be like an ORM for LLMs. And yeah, about this and V0, because I think we can like merge these topics together as they are somehow related. Sure. We also have new stuff. We have the promise of bringing in new design systems, for example. Right now, we are, of course, heavily leaning towards ShadCN, but we will have new stuff in future. So I think the Vercel AI SDK will become a very important topic for every Next.js developer and will be a powerful tool for us. As we'll probably show in near future with our demo. But right now, what can we say? We have the stream UI function, which replaces the render function and allows us, like, opens the door for creating AI empowered components. And I think this is where the topic of AI will like leverage in front-end development. And I think this is a great moment to show to the whole audience our demo.
So first of all, we're gonna show you guys what we are actually building today. So what we've done, and a big disclaimer here, which is quite a funny thing. We were building the demo on our way to Warsaw today, and it took us around 1.5 hours, and we used the Vercel AI SDK and also the V0 to generate the UI components, which is basically the real-life evidence how easy it is to make a simple AI-powered app. So what we are going to show today is basically like a simple kind of the GPT chat, but kind of enhanced with the generative UI features. So we've kind of recreated the feature which Google uses. For example, when you search for the weather for a specific city, you are not only shown the results from the web or just plain text, but instead you're getting like a widget component, which is great for the user experience. And we've tried to kind of recreate this behavior. So just by showing the demo on the local host, we have a very basic form, and we just can say hello to our chatbot. As you can see, we have our assistant asking us what can he do for us today. And as we've built kind of the weather forecast assistant, we can simply ask our chatbot what is the weather in Warsaw, for example. And as you can see, we have the fetching data indicator, and also instead of getting the response that we would get from the GPT, which is, I'm sorry, I'm just a model, I can't access the internet and the current data, we are actually doing a function which fetches the data, and then afterwards we are getting a real widget, a real server component from React. And it just shows you kind of the shift in how you can kind of interact with the application. And it's just great overall example of a simple app that uses the generative UI. So let's dive straight into the code. Let me open the code editor.
Yeah, the one thing I think is great to mention is that it is built in like an hour or an hour and a half.
Yeah, on the way in the car.
And
as a passenger princess seat, I would just build on the app in 1.5 hours. So yeah.
And it lets us see the weather forecast. So the question is how powerful this tool will become when we put the right amounts of effort into this, and after like new updates from Vercel. So yeah, this will probably become a very, very powerful tool in hands of developers.
Yeah, sure. So we are currently on the page TSX, which is our client component where we render our responses from the AI assistant, and also we prompt the assistant with the text we provide. So basically the code here is pretty straightforward. We are just using the state for managing the conversations here. Also, Vercel SDK enables you to have kind of integrated AI state, which we are not using here because we try to like keep it as simple as possible for the demo. And the most important thing here, I would say, is pretty much the actions file where we kind of interact directly with the assistant. So as you can see, we are creating an instance of the create streamable UI, and afterwards we are passing some props straight to the function. So as you can see here, we are passing the GPT 3.5 turbo model here. In the system, we can simply define some like initial prompt for the model. Afterwards, we are passing the messages history, which is being passed from the page TSX. And here comes the kind of generative UI magic, which is basically the tools prop. So what it does is it kind of acts like functions. So just kind of giving your AI model some superpowers to interact with the some APIs. And as you can see, we have a tool called show weather. And here we have a very important prop, which is the description. In our case, it is the show the weather for a given location. And it's very important to give the good description to the model, because based on that, it's going to decide whether not to use the function or to use the function. So we have to be sure that it's the proper description, just to be able for the model to understand our prompts in a specific way. And afterwards, we are taking advantage of the ZOT typing. So we are strictly typing which object is going to be passed to the model. And afterwards, we have the execute parameter, where you can see that we are first updating the stream with kind of the loading indicator. And afterwards, after we get the response with the stream.done, we are returning the component straight into the chat. So as you can see, we have pretty much like 30 lines of code, which is very intuitive. And it does quite a big amount of magic here. You can also see that the weather card, we can simply go to the weather card component, was actually generated by V0, which was also the next thing that just sped up the development process. And as you can see, it just async React component. We've used like kind of the mock action to get the weather data here, because connecting to the API of the weather wasn't the point of the demo, rather than just like showing the streamable components to the React generative UI. But as you can see, it's a very simple component where we just get the props from the model. We fetch the data with the get weather server action, and then we just stream the response straight into the chat. So as you can see, it's just so simple, and it allows you to create very interesting user experiences. And I've seen also, I guess we can kind of stop screen sharing the code. I've also seen kind of two demos of the generative UI. One was the F1 kind of results chatbot, which also gave you some kind of interactive components about upcoming and count races. So that was a pretty interesting use case, and also the usage of generative UI straight in e-commerce site with the checkout, which were great. Yeah, I would say that was the take on the generative UI in our demo. Maybe Philip, what are your thoughts about just developing such an app in the generative UI way?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for this presentation. It was very thorough, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I see this is how easy to create and how accessible is the whole AI SDK thing, because we don't have to manually deal with fetching OpenAI stuff. All of this comes from the AI SDK from Vercel, so we just import it from the library, and we specify description for our let's call them functions. So to only show weather cards when user asks for weather. We also have the customizable component, just a React component. This one is of course created by V0, which is also very nice. But if someone wants to create it from scratch, go ahead. And the thing is that if you really want to build something impressive in a short amount of time, you can do this with this set of tools. If you just think about some idea, for example, I would like to create a chatbot or something like that, you can easily start doing that just with AI SDK and V0. For example, if you don't want to spend time creating your components from scratch. And previously you of course had to worry about several APIs. For example, with this weather stuff, you had to connect to some weather API, handle the request, maybe format this data, and handle pending state, all of these things. And right now the heavy lifting is being done by Vercel AI SDK, and you have all the tools nicely documented. In VS Code you have all of this IntelliSense stuff and linting, so it's very easy to create something like that. You can do this in minutes actually, and yeah, it looks really good, and I think in future it will be maybe not easier, because I don't think it's like possible to set the bar even lower when it comes to difficulty of developing such applications, but I think the tools will be more powerful and will give us more options to have fun with and to develop real world applications.
Yeah, for sure. So the Vercel AI SDK simply creates the layer of abstraction, which takes, as you said, the heavy lifting, especially with connecting to different LLM providers, because every single provider have kind of the unique way to handle the connection. So the Vercel AI SDK simply creates the abstraction for us, just to make the development much faster. And a quick question here, I guess, to our audience is, as you can see, we can build stuff very quickly. Maybe that would be a good idea for the future podcast episode. Maybe just building live the Generative UI application with the usage of the Vercel AI SDK, both with the V0. Could be cool, actually. So if you guys have any ideas for the app we should make live, if you think that's a good idea, leave a comment and we can think about it, about just building the app live. We can simply demonstrate how quickly and easily you can make such app that we showed today.
Yeah, and of course with every episode we are very open for your feedback and for your thoughts and maybe suggestions. What would you like to hear in the next episodes of our podcast? What kind of hot topics and technologies about NextGen Web you would like to hear? So let us know in the comments. We'll surely read that.
Yes, for sure. And also we are very curious about your opinions about the React 19, which some people love, some people hate. We are very interested about your opinions about the new React version. And I guess we are coming to the end of our third episode. If you guys have any feedback, feel welcome to leave any feedback you want. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. Thank you from my side.
Thank you everyone, and see you in the next episode.